Welcome to the Badlands STOL Shop Performance Cuff, also known as the STOL Kit, for the experimental Cubs. Today we're going to dive in, take a look at it, hear about it, see it in action, just kind of give you guys a general overview of what this kit is, what it does, and why you probably want it on your Cub. All right, let's get started.
Get a corner of the hanger.
Yeah, I got that for some reference, exactly. Kind of shows it's just hanging up there.
My name is Larry Vatterman, and we're going to talk today a little bit about the cuff that we've added to the Cub. This was Clint's idea, and initially we formed one and we taped everything on just to see what this would do. We didn't really have any idea, but from the time that we put it on, the first thing that we noticed, the airplane actually flew different, and everything that it did was positive. We noticed a decrease in stall speed in the range of 4 to 5 miles an hour, and we weren't sure if we were losing on the top end. And my buddy John and I fly together all the time, and we're always the same RPM, 2400, same speed. And John asked me, what RPM you run that? I said 2400 like always, and he said, well, I've got to go 2450 or better to keep up with you. So what that tells us is we didn't really lose anything on the top end. We gained a little bit. However, how much in a Cub? Maybe a mile, 2 miles an hour. But the important thing is we didn't lose any cruise speed. Now, as far as handling, on the other Cub, the yellow Cub, which is not this airplane, by the way, I couldn't ever on landing drag the tail wheel. It was 3-point and it would absolutely quit. When we put the cuff on that airplane, I noticed the pitch attitude change. With the slower speed and the 3-inch landing gear that it had, I could actually drag the tail wheel down the runway. So that was all positive with that airplane. This cuff on this airplane is brand new and only has a couple hours of flight on it, so I really haven't done much testing yet. But it's kind of like the yellow airplane. Everything is positive about it. And one thing that we did a little bit different on this airplane, rather than overlap these sections of cuffs, we went ahead and butt jointed them. If you look right here, you'll see that they're butt jointed together, not overlapped. A little more work, but it's up to the installer when you get the kit that you can actually do that. And it doesn't take much to do it. It just looks like a little cleaner operation. I don't think it affects any flight characteristics. I just thought it looked better. This morning, I flew and I went right out south here, went up to 5,500 feet, and not knowing what the stall characteristics are with the cuff on this airplane, I elected to pull the power back very slowly to idle, so I didn't shock cool the engine, full flaps, and pulled the stick all the way back, and it wouldn't break. It just hung there. I was hoping to do the falling leaf, but that didn't happen. So the stability of it is really good. The other thing is this airspeed will zero right out when you're doing slow flight. So other than using the GPS, we don't really know how fast we're going. Of course, there's always wind upstairs, but it slowed down and handled it very nicely.
So, have you noticed what have you noticed when you stall yours?
Same thing, it's really stable. And again, it might be an elevator issue that we have to deal with, but I can hold the stick all the way back and I don't even have to pump the rudders or anything, and it just settles.
Right.
And the rate of descent doesn't get too high, and it just doesn't break like it used to. And the other thing that's really, every time I land, I go, wow, I can't believe this. It's changed the flap characteristics in relationship to trim. And you get it first notch, get it trimmed a little bit, and the flaps, you don't have to deal with the trim ever again. It's just really stable. And it wasn't like that before. And that's kind of interesting. And it's a little faster, which doesn't make any sense either.
Right. Yeah.
So it's been a fun experience.
What I noticed on this airplane was I typically don't even mess with the trim because it's just not necessary.
Right.
When I put the cuffs on, I have electric trim in this, and I had to bump it 3 times up, the trim up, to now be in trim from where it was before. So there's definite a trim change from before the cuff and after the cuff.
And then it was out flaps. Where you're putting the flaps?
No, in cruise.
In cruise.
In cruise. When I got up to cruise, went to 2,400, the airspeed come up to cruise, you know, I had to go with more up trim. Now, we did when I had the cuff on, and that was, we used some flashing off of a building, and Clint built the first cuff, and we taped everything on with 100-mile-an-hour tape.
Yeah.
And that's when John and I flew, and he didn't have a cuff, and I did. So, without the cuff, and that's when
That's when you saw the big difference.
we saw the big difference. And then we went up and taped one on John's airplane, and then we fly together. Now we're the same RPM, the same speed again. One of the things that's so hard to describe, the way this airplane feels now versus a stock center.
Right. I understand that because I had the same thing.
You know, you get to the point where, boy, this thing's gonna quit me anytime, and you know, it's just like it's really, oh boy, I'm right there.
Yeah.
Now it's like, it's stable.
So after talking about this STOL cuff, John and Larry hopped in their Cubs and went out to just demonstrate a little bit of the flying characteristics. They drug the tail wheels a little bit before letting the mains drop in, and just did some slow flight and whatnot. Now keep in mind, conditions were not the best to be showing off a cool mod like this. It's about 4,000 foot at that strip there, and they did have a direct crosswind. It's hitting the trees and buildings, and it's kind of disrupting the air coming across the runway. It wasn't real strong, but it was just a crosswind, so no help from the wind. I think the best evidence to show what this mod does is when Larry was explaining how, as he modified his first Cub, and then he was faster than John and seeing differences, then John adds the mod, and now they're even again. And then Larry ended up doing it to his second Cub as well, because, you know, he likes the fact that it flies both slower and faster, very forgiving, good handling, good stall characteristics, so on and so forth.
I could point out a couple things. So this is John O'Connell's airplane. Working on a mold to make these. This particular piece is 060 Lexan. But in the future kits, where people need a landing light, we're going to offer, you know, a light cover that has the profile in it to match the rest of the cuff.
Sorry about the wind there, guys, but what Clint was explaining is they're still working out the mold for those that need a landing light. So depending on when you see this video and when it goes up and all that stuff, it may already be figured out. Just have to talk to them about it when you call in and see where they're at with that part of the kit. All right, so I'm just going to give a few thoughts here as we wrap up the video and close this out. You guys that watch the channel normally know this is not really the type of content I typically do, but anything that I've advertised on here before is always going to be something I believe in. Case in point, I have this STOL cuff from Clint on my Turbo S7, and I got very similar results to what these Cub guys are seeing. It's all positive, and for the few pounds it weighs, it was absolutely worth doing. And as far as the install goes, it's easier on the Cubs. This is probably a long day project. You know, the night before, I personally would line up and glue the foam blocks on, and then you're ready the next morning to start rolling the metal on. And if you've got some basic skills and basic tools and clecos and can countersink rivets, then you've pretty much got what it takes to do this. For a pretty affordable and easy to do mod, I think there's a lot of bang for the buck here. So give those guys a call. They're putting together a website. I'll link that as well, both here at the end of the video and check the description. Clint has built a special brake for bending the metal. He's got jigs for, forming everything. All that's already been done. I can't speak to the lead times, so you just have to give him a call and see what that will be. So thanks for the interest in the Badlands STOL Cuff, and thanks for watching the video.